Good morning. We'll call this committee of the whole meeting to order for May 28th, 2025. Please rise as we're led in Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Kelly Snyder, 20-year member of the A.E. Crandall Hook and Ladder Company.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thank you, Kelly. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barnes. Mr. Bissett.
Here.
Mrs. Burdick. Here. Mr. Curran.
Here.
Mr. Demick.
Here.
Mr. Fanton. Mrs. Hanchett. Here. Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Havey.
Here.
Mr. Healy. Mr. Ricky.
Here.
Mrs. Ricketts Swales. Mrs. Rue. Mr. Rumfelt. Mr. Stockin. 13 present, 2 absent.
Thank
We
you.
have a quorum.
Thank you. Seeking approval of today's agenda. Anyone care to make a motion? Thank you, Mr. Bissett, seconded by Mr. Havey. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, and the agenda is approved. All right, so the primary purpose of the committee of the whole this morning is to hear a state budget impact report from representatives from the National Association of Counties. They're going to be here around 11 o'clock or a little bit before. So we've got some housekeeping stuff we're going to take care of before then. If we get through this stuff before 11 o'clock, we'll just recess the committee of the whole and reconvene once the NISAC representatives get here. So under item 4, advocacy resolutions, there's a little handful of state bills that we have been asked as a board to consider supporting through resolutions of our own. Some of these, or one of these anyway, we have talked about. A couple we haven't, maybe. The first one on there is relating to rural pharmacy deserts. So I'm not sure if anyone saw the Wellsville Sun letter of the editor yesterday. That was timely. I know over in District 5, we've had conversations with the owner of Alfred Pharmacy, Tony Graziano. Tony has shared similar concerns. Actually, NACO has addressed this in their policy platform for 2025. The issue being, in general, that for small independent pharmacies, the reimbursement rates provided by insurers do not cover the wholesale cost of the prescription drugs that are being purchased by the pharmacies. There's a state resolution, there's actually twin resolutions in the Assembly and Senate that are detailed there, 5882 and 5939 in the Assembly and Senate. That address this issue to an extent that I actually don't particularly understand. So I don't know. I know Brenda sent out the copies of those resolutions or those bills. I have read them. I still don't understand it. I, to be honest, don't even know what a pharmacy benefit manager is. So what I'm hoping we can do today is maybe open it up for discussion. If we decide as a board we need some more expert guidance on this subject in terms of drafting a supporting resolution, we can do that. Jan?
I received a call from Casey Klingensmith yesterday, and I apologize. I made copies of the bill and her letter that is addressed to all of us, and I left them in my car. So if we get a break, I will try to go down and make sure you get it. But she's very concerned about this, and she asked me to present it, and I didn't know it was on the agenda. So last night I saw it, and I did email her and tell her that it was on the agenda. The way she explained it to me is basically it could really close our local pharmacies because they won't get the same reimbursement as these big, whatever they're called. And that's a major concern because, like, just, I know there's other pharmacies, but like Alfred Pharmacy, it'll affect our seniors, the students, the residents. I mean, Tony is the type of person that will actually deliver your drugs to you if you can't make it before he closes or if you're too sick. And those services are definitely just drastically needed in our rural environment. And so it sounds to me from what she told me is something that is a bipartisan bill and that it's something we definitely should support. But I also read the bill and did not totally understand it, so.
Thank you. Mr. Healy?
Thank you, Chairman. and I won't even begin to try to understand any of the bills coming out of Albany. But on the federal level, I think some of the recent initiatives by the Trump administration, and hopefully going to be followed through by Congress, will, I think, eliminate some of those issues. Hopefully, by cutting out the middleman, my hope is, anyways, it'll make our local pharmacies more viable. That's as I understand it from my friends in the business. That's where the problem is, and it's almost like some of the you wonder about the dairy co-ops. Why is the farmer only getting a low price for milk when there seems to be a higher national average on the other end? But I guess the only way we'll find out is with time here, and when I get through with the bills in Washington, it'll trickle down, and maybe you said both NACO and NISAC is coming today. Did I understand you to say that? In the
No,
beginning?
just NISAC. I mean, NACO has already passed a policy position related to rural pharmacy deserts that we could probably use as a guide to
I
drafting our own.
misunderstood you then. I thought you first said NACO was coming, and then later, okay, thank you.
Ms. Carroll?
Yes, so they spoke a little bit about this, these pharmacy benefit managers at the recent conference that I attended for county attorneys. And they did explain it as, so pharmacy benefit managers really are the middlemen between the drug manufacturers and producers, and then the pharmacies themselves who distribute the drugs to all of us. So the pharmacy benefit managers actually set the prices for how much the pharmaceuticals and the drugs will cost us. So for the larger, so my understanding is that, so for the larger chain pharmacies, because of how their profits are, they can actually, they make out okay with whatever the rates are. But the local rural pharmacies, they actually are losing out on the money because the rates are so high, and then whatever insurance covers. So they're always operating on a loss. So really, with everything that's going on, especially with all of the opioid litigation that we've had, the pharmacy benefit managers have actually been making out quite well, even in all of those situations. So they really are truly a middleman here in this situation. And although I just glanced over this legislation and really haven't looked into it or really spoke about it to anyone, nor did they really talk about it on my conference. At my conference, this really is supposed to reduce some of that middleman setting drug prices, I believe, don't quote me on it, and make it the playing field more fair for our rural pharmacies, so they wouldn't be as vulnerable to going out of business.
Okay, thank you. I guess with all three of these, what we'll do is, if it's the will of the board, we'll direct administration and the county attorney to draft resolutions in support of these state bills. And then once those are prepared and circulated to the board, we can come back to it and vote it up or vote it down. Does that make sense? Okay, so on this one, is there any other questions or comments on the pharmacy legislation? County Attorney, do we need a vote directing you to prepare resolutions or no?
I don't think you need to do a formal vote. You can probably just with a show of hands or to direct me to prepare a resolution.
So you've got the thumbs up on that one, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, the next one, and I don't know if I'm going in order here or not, also relates to a rural desert, and this one is regarding banking institutions. So, as you're aware, also in the news, Community Bank has closed 2 more branches in the county, one in Wellsville and the other in Belfast. That follows along with ones that have already closed in Angelica and Canasfrega and Andover and many others. So, not sure Who's heard from their constituents about their concerns? You have, Mr. Havey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have. Actually, this morning, when I came in my mail was a letter from a constituent, and it's very short, and I will read it to you. Dear Mr. Havey, this decision that Community Bank is making to close 2 branches in Allegheny County, Belfast and Wellsville, is devastating to our communities and local economy. The small communities of Belfast, Angelica, and others do not have access to their money unless they travel to one of the few open community bank locations. I hope that Allegheny County legislators will advocate for the residents, who are impacted by these closures. Thank you. Signed, a concerned Allegheny County resident. No name on here. Go ahead. Did you get one similar to that? Thank you.
They're all handwritten?
Yeah, there it is. Yep, came in an envelope. And quite honestly, I've spoken about this before in other venues, and it is stressful on the local residents to have a branch of a bank that they have depended on for so long to close. I'll speak directly to the one in Wellsville because that's the one I'm familiar with. It is on Main Street. It does get a lot of foot traffic, and the folks that live in the village of Wellsville, some of them, it would be a hardship, I think, for them to have to go to the Highland Avenue branch. Many folks have said, why didn't they close the Highland Avenue branch and keep the branch on Main Street open? And I don't know the answer to that. I know that there are a lot of factors that go into business decisions, but it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that corporations continue to close their banks in rural areas when, quite honestly, the only thing that they provide us is service. And if they close your local bank, they deny that service to you. So I'm aligned with this letter. I think that that bank should not be closed, but there's little we can do about it, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Ma'am?
So I did receive the same letter, and I read it and I supported the letter as well. But I went a little bit further because Community Bank in Fillmore has some people who work for all of the community banks. So I asked about the Belfast closing at least. I mentioned the Wellsville, but I don't know. Yeah, I do.
It's not, your light's not on.
Oh, okay. Is that better? So I also supported the letter when it came in, except for the anonymous part. I never thought of myself as someone scary that you'd have to be anonymous to write me a letter, but that's beside the point, I guess. But I did speak to a representative of Community Bank at the Fillmore branch about this, and they did tell me that there are a group of concerned citizens in Belfast who have already approached Steuben Trust. But that one of the problems is that many local people, while they support having the bank there, don't always use the bank. And so some of the concerned citizens that are trying to get the bank, a new bank in Belfast, don't bank at Community Bank, don't have their accounts there. And she said to me, I guess this is the other side of it. And I always try to look at both sides, and I don't know if I agree or not with this, but do people shop locally? Do they bank locally? That's the question you have to ask them. And I get it. Older people probably do bank locally. But Belfast has, slowly been not being used very much. So that is the problem. And I asked about an ATM at least, and there is a couple of ATMs in the town. So they said, if they don't support us, we can't stay there. That's the problem. So I see both sides of it, and I think that it's hard to lose a bank, and I really don't want to, but I do see the other side of it as well. So we have to think about that. When we're in our towns, we have to do stuff in our towns. We have to participate in those towns to keep things going.
Thank you. Mr. Demick.
I'd just like to follow up with that. I think when Angelica and Andover closed, we did a resolution in support of that to someone. Maybe, I don't know if it probably fall on deaf ears because there ain't a whole lot we're going to have to say with a big business, but we could always follow that avenue again, just to let them know again if that helps.
The resolution we passed a few years ago was expressing concern to our state representatives and asking them to investigate the increase in rural banking deserts in New York State. The feedback we got was that really it's the Federal Reserve that oversees that kind of stuff, and the state really doesn't have any pull in regards to what national banks do with opening and closing branches. This resolution that we're considering supporting today is, to an extent, not directly related to rural banking deserts, but it comes with a recognition that in a lot of these towns, the last standing financial institution is often either a credit union or a savings and loan. And New York state law does not permit municipal entities from utilizing those financial institutions as depositories. I think mostly because of the FDIC insurance disparities between banks and credit unions and savings and loans. This particular Assembly Bill 3539 changes the law to permit municipal entities permits municipal entities to deposit in savings and loans and credit unions, which would be a benefit, obviously, to those branches that we have locally, would give them more business and make them more sustainable so they can stay in our community. If we wanted to go down the road of drafting a resolution addressing the actual banking deserts in our county, I think it would be one that's similar to the one we passed, but directing those concerns more to our federal partners than our state partners, which we could do one or the other or both, I think. Mr. Bissett.
Thank you. Have we reached out with, like Elko, Federal Credit Union, or like Five Star or anybody like that would be interested in opening in those small towns?
Oh, you've got, correct, no more, right? No. Teachers,
Your mic's not on.
Yeah, that's right.
I think Elko's added, in the last few years, 3 or 4 more locations too. So I think they'd be open to growing on that. So just from past behavior and contact with them, so.
Piggyback on what Gretchen said, or not Gretchen, but Jennifer, yes. Thank you. The people of the county or the residents of those towns have to utilize those businesses. And if they don't, the post office is a great example. You know, they downsized. The only reason most of them haven't closed is because Congress, will not allow it. But the banks are not under the same, regulatory process. So, I encourage, unfortunately with the population not expanding and people not utilizing it or doing a lot online, then these are businesses. They're going to do what they have to do, which isn't fair to the residents.
Mr. Havey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In Wellsville, we've discussed having another banking organization come into that building, and it's my understanding that Community Bank will not sell these buildings to another banking institution. So anything that may go into that building, or the one that's closing, in Belfast, would not be banking institutions. It would have to be something else. So.
Thank you. Mr. Healy.
been trying to speak out defer to him.
Maybe we should pull our money out of Community Bank if they want to do that. We have, what, Terry, $500,000, $250,000? I know. Yeah, we did as of last year. I know we had like 5 different banks. We had money spread around. but send them a message that we're not happy.
Mr. Healy?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think, it's like a lot of things in our county and a lot of the, especially rural upstate New York, it's reflective of the economic demographics of the area. And a lot of our people already use electronic banking via the government or privately, and it's for the banks, commercial banks, it's a business model, and they got to do what they think's best for their business. They have a lot of sympathy for the communities involved, just like when we lost our school building downtown here. It doesn't seem like we don't like it, but you got to do what makes sense. And the only thing I'll say is, the credit unions are a great vehicle for us in the smaller communities. Obviously, we're fortunate here. We have Community Bank in Belmont. That's one of the few things we got left in Belmont is Community Bank. And if the county wasn't here, or if they passed some resolution letting the credit unions on an equal footing by statute with the commercial banks, you'd probably lose even more commercial banks, would be my guess. So I want to be careful what you wish for. It'll be like Kmart Corporation, that will be history.
Mr. Chairman.
Jim?
I just want to add one more thing. When the bank in Canasarega closed, the seniors over there, and I'm sure these other banks that are closing, they're the ones that are getting hit the hardest with this because they don't do online banking. They go to the bank physically and do their banking, and it is hurting our seniors the most because some of them don't have transportation to go all the way to Artport or wherever they need to go. So I think we need to address this, and our county aging is becoming more aged, and those are the people we need to also protect.
Mr. Bissett?
One other thing on that is with the pharmacy, to go back to that, in District 3, I don't even think we have a pharmacy any longer. Pardon?
I was told there's only 7 independently owned pharmacies left in the county.
Right. So, Bolivar used to have one, but I don't think there's another pharmacy since that closed. And they were talking about the prices, and I was talking to the Friendship pharmacist, and, he was telling me the exact same thing long before I read any of this, to where they lose money on some of their prescriptions. So that doesn't make sense at all. But unfortunately, with what Jan said, it's not just the elderly. We have a lot of spots that don't have pharmacies, we don't have banks, and they don't have high-speed internet. So how can you do online banking if you don't have high-speed internet to do it? And that's one of the big problems they're all running into. Thank you.
Any other comments, thoughts? What's the board's pleasure? Would you like to support the assembly bill that's listed? Would you rather start from scratch and come up with a resolution directed towards the federal government about increasing regulations or tightening the regulations on what defines a rural banking desert? There's already some existing regulations, and again, those are overseen by the Federal Reserve, and what they define as a rural banking desert is no financial institution within 10 miles. So, pure speculation on my part, but if I was a commercial bank with a number of branches in Allegheny County, I would look and see, how can I still meet those regulations? I'd keep a bank in Belmont, in Wellsville, in Alfred, in Cuba, and in Fillmore, and then I think I'd probably have all those census blocks covered within 10 miles. Whether or not that's what's happening here, I don't know, but As Jan said, it's unrealistic in our county to expect someone that doesn't have reliable transportation to travel from one town to another to get their banking needs met. So what do you think? What would you like to do, if anything?
I'd say both.
I would agree.
Okay, so that's another thumbs up for admin and county attorney who's got nothing else to do. It's another bipartisan bill, at least on the state level. Terry, before we move on from that, any thoughts from a treasurer's perspective on the use of credit unions or savings and loans to deposit public money? I don't think we've got your mic.
I think you have to just make sure that all the money is safeguarded. The proposal's been up many, many times before in the past, and as we all know, big banking has lots of money, so they have lots of lobbyists that usually end up winning. But, you know, it's not a bad thing. Most of them don't compete with the bigger bank. They don't have the services that the bigger bank affords us. But, you know, if they're in the game, they can play the game if they want to, you know, contribute or compete with those other bankings and offer the services, then some places that's all they might have. You know, I know that if we lost our bank here in Belmont, that would be a big hit to our services that we provide. The employees use that. Our payroll is run through Community Bank down here. If we were to lose that as an option, people wouldn't be able to walk down there on payday and cash their checks. And, you know, it would be a detriment to our services that we can provide. But, you know, it's worth a try.
Okay, thanks. All right, that's enough on that one. All right, last one. I'm really going to probably gum up this one, but this is one that's come from NISAC, actually, I think for the last couple of years. There is a Senate bill that's associated with this, and it's all regarding, I see Dr. Anderson in the back, so maybe he'll be able to help us today, regarding mental health competency to stand trial. So it's my understanding that when a judge requests one of these 730 exams, is that what they are? Thank you, Doc. To determine whether or not a person is competent to stand trial. If there is a determination that they are not competent to stand trial, it is the obligation of the county solely in terms of cost to provide the restorative services necessary to make them competent to stand trial. Doc could probably attest to this as well. There are people in this world who are never going to be competent to stand trial. And what has been happening, I don't know if it's happened in our county in recent memory, but in other counties, what happens is people get caught in this loop of trying to get them competent, which is never going to happen. And it's costing counties, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars just for one person to make an attempt to make them competent. So that's my general overview, and maybe, Doc, since you're here, we appreciate you being here. If you have any thoughts on the subject that you could share with us, we'd appreciate it.
There we go.
Good morning.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to say something. You remember a while ago, we had a resolution that we asked you to support regarding this in the same way. This Senate bill has added a couple of different things. At least, I believe they got it added when they were at the budget table when they were splitting mental health and everything else, because the Conference of Local Mental Hygiene Directors suggested that we look at a couple of other things in addition to just the way the system has been running for the last 40, actually it turns 50 years next year that we've been doing it this way. The county has been responsible for everything for the last 5 years. Prior to that, we split it 50-50 with the state. And it's easy to hit hundreds of thousands of dollars because that makes it $36,000 a month per person. And so what the conference has proposed, in addition to the state taking back what they mandate, and they should pay that in its entirety, they have suggested a couple of other ways of looking at this, and that's doing jail-based restoration and community-based restoration. We found out in the last 4 months that the amount of time the state psychiatric facility spends in restorative measures, services, is something like 4 hours a week, not 4 hours a day, but we're paying for the equivalent of how many ever hours they're there. So let's say 40 hours a week that the therapists are on there. We're paying for that whole shot, not just for the 4 hours of restorative. Restorative is still a moving target. And obviously, there are many people that are unable to be restored, most notably in the intellectual and disabilities. We have been lucky because our ARC, Mr. Damiano, is such a strong advocate that we have not ever, in the time that he's been here, we've never had to send someone from OPWDD, one of our citizens, for a forensic check. He has always made sure they got specific treatment individualized to that person. So we're very lucky in that regard. We're also have been lucky over the 1 or 2 years that I've been here to not have a lot of specious requests for this. Just somebody saying, oh, I want to stall things out, so I want them to come in, because I know it'll take, 6 months to do a 7:30 exam. Now, we've got the 7:30 exams down. Actually, in the last year, we've really worked hard to try to get that down and get it done within 3 months. And I think we're down within that 3-month range now when they bring someone to us. It is not a perfect system. It's very difficult. Anyway, I think this bill, the way I understand it, and like you, Mr. Chairman, I'm not an attorney and I am not a state legislator, so I don't understand all of the nuances in this particular bill, but I do think it's one that we need to support, you need to support. And I'm open to any questions if you've got any specifics.
How's it gonna affect us financially, different than what it is right now?
Well, if the Senate bill, if they make it so that the state takes over the charges, even if they just go back the other way. Now, I think, Terry, we've been very lucky the last 2 or 3 years. This year, we've run a bit more, but 2023, we didn't spend a dime. We managed to get everybody taken care of and put appropriately treated without ever having to send them to a forensic unit. If the state takes over the cost, then obviously it will save us. whatever that would be.
Does that bill do that?
It's my understanding,
So that bill would actually put the cost back to the state?
Yes.
Rather than us?
yes.
Well, how could you disagree with that?
Is that the county attorney's opinion too, or?
Is that, have you read it?
Can you please repeat the question? Or what are we,
Does the current Senate bill still say that the state should take over the cost?
I haven't read it in its entirety, but I will get back to you on that.
This is what's in this one here? Is this specific? It says that the state is gonna take over the costs.
I can't swear to that. I'll have to wait until.
When NISAC gets here, I'm sure they're familiar with the bill. They could probably get that cleaned up for us. Yeah,
I know at NISAC it was presented in standing committee, and one of the counties, and I think it was Onondaga or Oneida, I can't remember now, their 730s were over $5 million.
Albany does too.
Yeah, it was, and that's was their county cost. They had to pay it. So if the state can take it over, certainly it's going to be a huge advantage for everybody statewide.
Right, yeah.
other things in the bill that don't state that but would have monetary impact, like it says that the initial examiner is required to report if in their determination this person is never going to be able to be restored to competency, which doesn't exist now. In other words, they can just be in limbo forever, from my understanding. If the examiner is put in a position to be able to say, this is a person who I determine is never going to be competent to stand trial, it kind of releases the county from any obligation to continue those restorative services. Is that correct?
Yes, and they're trying to put a time limit on like 90 days or something, which even that is considerably less than what they're spending now. And the other thing is, remember I mentioned our community-based restoration and the jail-based restoration, and those are programs that are being piloted right now in New York State. Other states do them. Couple of them on the West Coast. I believe Washington does that. So the bill has some very good, positive benefits for the counties. So I would certainly encourage you.
Thank you, Doctor. That helped significantly. Did you have something, Mr. Healy?
No, I agree with the doctor on that, and also I think, we should pass something additional to that the state should have to fund any and all of their mandates. If they mandate the service, they should have to be paying for it or come in and run that service, in my opinion. Thank you.
Seems reasonable. Why don't we do this so we can cross this off our list? It's my guess that the board supports the state bill. If it's determined that there's not any language in the bill that puts the onus back on the state to provide the funding in support of restorative services, we could just add that to our resolution, supporting the bill and seeking that the state fulfill its obligations to fund the service. Does that sound good? Any objections? You got that, Ms. Carroll? Okay. All right, I see that our NISAC representatives are here. Let's, we'll recess now, and then when we get back, we'll make a motion to move agenda item 5 to the end after the NISAC update. But let's recess now for 5 minutes, and then when we come back, we'll have